You know, it feels like psilocybin, the active compound in magic mushrooms, is everywhere right now. I mean, it's rocketed from this counterculture thing to a Silicon Valley wellness trend, and now it's at the heart of some really serious scientific research for mental health. But what does the science actually say? Okay, let's get into it and separate the real facts from all the hype.
So to really get what's happening today, you've got to look back. Way back. For ancient Aztec cultures, these mushrooms were absolutely sacred. They called them teonanacatl, which means flesh of the gods. See, this wasn't about getting high. This was a profound spiritual tool, a bridge to the divine.
And this is where the story gets really wild. Those same ancient sacred practices, they're now the inspiration for some of the most cutting-edge mental health treatments being developed today. We're talking about everything from treating deep depression to helping people break free from addiction.
So let's trace that journey for a second. This incredible knowledge was first written down by Spanish conquerors way back in the 16th century, but then it pretty much vanished from the Western world. That is, until the 1950s, when a Mazatec healer named Maria Sabina shared these rituals with outsiders. And that moment, it lit a fuse that is now, in the 21st century, just exploding with a whole new wave of clinical research.
And what's so amazing is the parallel here, right? In the ancient ceremonies, a shaman guides you on a spiritual journey. In modern therapy, a trained therapist guides a patient through a journey of psychological healing. But look, the core elements are identical: a guide, a specific setting, and a clear intention. It all comes down to this idea of set and setting, and the whole framework is built to help a person navigate the incredibly profound, consciousness-altering experience that a big dose can trigger.
And this modern approach, using these big, guided doses, is getting results that are, frankly, staggering. And we're not talking about tiny improvements here. Major studies are showing that just 1 or 2 sessions can bring about these massive, long-lasting reductions in severe depression and anxiety. It's even showing huge promise in helping people break the hold of addiction, from smoking to alcoholism.
But, of course, that kind of intense, high-dose experience, it's not for everybody. And that's exactly why another trend has popped up right alongside it: microdosing. The promise? Well, you get all the supposed benefits with none of the intense psychedelic trip.
So what is it exactly? Well, microdosing just means taking this tiny, subperceptual dose. We're talking like 1/10 of what someone might take recreationally, on a regular basis. The whole idea is that you don't actually feel anything trippy, but that you get these cumulative benefits over time.
And the claims you hear from people are all over the place. People say they feel better, they're more creative, more focused, just, happier with their lives. But as we all know, stories aren't the same thing as scientific data.
Which brings us right to the big question. The reason we're doing this explainer. When you strip away all the hype, all the expectation, is there a real pharmacological effect going on? I mean, does this stuff actually work?
Okay, so how do you even begin to test that? Well, some clever researchers at Imperial College London came up with this really groundbreaking citizen science study to finally put microdosing to the test.
They got 191 people, all of whom were already planning to microdose on their own, to participate. And that number, 191, is a really big deal. It makes this the largest placebo-controlled trial on psychedelics ever, which gives the results a ton of weight.
And the method they used was just brilliant. They called it self-blinding. So here's how it worked. First, people put their own microdoses and some empty placebo pills into identical capsules. Then, they put those capsules into weekly envelopes that had QR codes on them, hiding what was inside. Then, for 4 weeks, they just took the pills on schedule, not knowing if they were taking the microdose or the placebo. They'd scan the QR code, which told the researchers what they took, but not them. It's basically a full-on clinical trial, just done from home. Genius.
So, the stage was set. It was a showdown, belief versus biochemistry. And honestly, the results were not what most people expected.
So, at first glance, it looked like the hype was real. The study absolutely confirmed the stories. The people who were taking the microdoses showed really significant improvements in their psychological well-being. It seemed to be working.
But here's the twist. Take a look at this chart. That first bar, the microdose group, yep, big improvement, no question. But now look at that second bar. That's the placebo group. Their improvements were nearly identical.
And that's the whole ball game right there. When you actually compare the two groups head-to-head, the statistical difference between them completely disappears. The benefits people were feeling, they weren't coming from the psilocybin.
What was really driving the change wasn't the biochemistry of the drug. It was psychological expectation. It was the simple but incredibly powerful belief that they were doing something good for themselves. It was the placebo effect, clear as day.
And I mean, listen to this. This is a quote from a participant who, it turned out, had only gotten placebos for the entire 4 weeks. They said they were astonished because they were able to generate this powerful experience based only on the expectation that they might be taking a microdose. Wow. So what does this all mean? When you put the powerful results from high-dose therapy next to this incredibly revealing microdosing study, it all points to one very clear conclusion. This table really sums it all up perfectly. You've got two completely different paths. On one side, there's psilocybin therapy, a high dose, a clinical setting, a trained guide. The mechanism is a profound, life-altering experience, and the clinical evidence for it is really strong. Then on the other side, you've got microdosing, a tiny dose, an everyday setting, no guide. And the evidence there shows no benefit beyond a placebo. The mechanism isn't the drug, it's just psychological expectation.
So the single most important takeaway from all of this research is really simple, but it's profound. When it comes to psychedelics, context and dose are everything. A big dose in the right setting can force a real, measurable change. A tiny dose, it seems, just taps into the amazing power of our own belief.
And that kind of leaves us with this huge, fascinating question, doesn't it? The microdosing study might not have proven anything about the drug, but it sure as heck proves something about the power of our minds. So if our own belief can create such real, tangible improvements in our well-being, what does that say about the future of medicine?